In this video, we are still thinking up stories for our continent of Arapangia and our heroes, actually PCs for tabletop role-playing game that Bunny and Owl are playing. This is Dark Branch, the gnome rogue, and April Line, the elven wizard. And they will now have landed on the continent of Arapangia in the area of waste muck glaciers, and more specifically on Wild Pebbles Beach. Near Wild Pebbles Beach, or on the beach, will be the community of Wild Pebbles Town or Wild Pebbles Village. I don't think we've decided yet. Anyway, April Line and Dark Branch will be visiting a tavern or bar, which is the tradition for tabletop role-playing game adventures. So they will start out visiting and learning about Wild Pebbles Beach and Waste Muck Glacier area on the continent of Arapangia by meeting the people in there, in the bar, and well, we'll see how that goes. At the same time, we are thinking about our own ideas for the game mechanics for the tabletop role-playing game. So earlier we talked about the colors, the colors of lunar magic that are important to this world. Most of the magic is based on the moonlight from the 7 moons, and the colors tend to be blue, green, and red, and secondary colors of purple, yellow, and cyan. So, which colors is April Line, our wizard, interested in? So we'll get into that a little bit. And also for tabletop role-playing games and game mechanics, we are thinking about an idea for how to play in the moment, and I think Turtle will be doing a bit of that while the guys are in the tavern. And then one other idea that for Arapangia and not in the Waste Muck Glacier area, but once they get in, and we're sure they will get into the inner sea area, that is the Snowbush Sea. Once they get into that warm area where there are dinosaurs, and we're talking about what kind of dinosaurs they might find, intelligent, community-minded sort of dinosaurs. So that is what we're thinking of today.
Okay. We are Wild Art Fly Free, and we are all about creativity. It's good to have you with us. We really like your feedback for brainstorming. And remember, we don't criticize. So long as you are positive and try to help, the worst we will do is ignore you. And then again, if people like your suggestions, they will become part of our world. It's fun. Just remember, everything we do is public domain, so if you have any ideas that you want to use in your own writing, don't share them with us. Everything that you share with us will become public domain, and that means that you will lose your copyright. Sorry for that, but on the other hand, You can feel safe that anything that you hear from us is safe to copy and use. No worries.
So in our favorite PC wizard, that is player character, as opposed to NPC, which is a non-player character, usually run by the GM. So our PC character named April Line, a elf wizard, when he makes a floating light source, he is using blue light magic, blue moonlight magic, to make a floating light source. So that April Line must be have some specialization in uh, blue light magic. April Line can also make a source of heat float through the air, and importantly, April Line is more challenged at making only light or only heat. So when April Line made the light source, it also produced some heat because, well, our wizard isn't up to that level of specialty in the blue light area. Anyway, we'll get to April Line's specialties and levels later. April Line can make floating light and floating heat, and it is a challenge to make the heat without the light or vice versa. When he does it, it's usually hot and bright. Anyway, we are not calling this a fireball. If we did, we're sorry, because we think of fireballs as something that explode, and explosions would use chaos and energy, and chaos and energy is a specialty of red moonlight magic. So we do not believe that April Line is as good at red magic as he is at blue magic, and he's not great at blue magic, so he's not making exploding fireballs yet. So what would a green moonlight specialist do? Where we talked about green as based on mass or solidity. So if a wizard wanted to produce something solid and real, but not necessarily floating through the air or blowing up, something and solid and real would be green magic. And probably not too big unless they're really good and have a lot of green magic. So if you want to move something that has weight and would be moved, a mix of blue-green, so that's cyan. And if you want it to blow up, that's red. And if you want to float through the air and then blow up, that would be blue, and red, which would be purple. Okay, stuff to think about. And if we go with this, yeah, something to be quick about, to think, yeah, that's got to do this and that, so it will be this color. And how good are you as a magic person at that color? That will be the GM's job to do quick, and possibly the player's job to help.
We have been talking about a game mechanic that I want to try out. So this is a moment by moment thing. We have all played TTRPGs where each player needs to roll the dice to see who goes first in order. That is what we call rolling for initiative. But, we are thinking that maybe we should see what happens when everyone goes at the same time. Okay. That's going to be chaos, right? But, maybe. Battles tend to be chaos. And, we are all about a little chaos, Aren't we? Anyway, what we are thinking is that, every player should decide what their character would do in that moment, and then, based on everything else that will be happening, see how that turns out. That makes sense, I think. Anyway, it is worth a try. So, when something is about to happen, just before it is going to happen, we can check what each player's character and what each non-player's character is doing and how they feel. Then, the GM will say what happens in the next moment. And then, each player can say what they think that their character would do. Then, in the next moment, it will be up to the GM to sort out what actually happens. The GM will need to decide on some likelihoods and then roll the dice. That is always better to leave the important events up to chance. So, does that make sense? I hope so. Wish us luck. Okay.
So the monster steps out of the bushes, and the first moment. So for a battle a mechanic, for the actual fighting mechanic, we're thinking of going moment for moment. And another issue will be that it won't be a turn-based so much, that everybody will prepare in the moment, and then we will just compare, everybody's situation and work out the conflict. So you have some time to decide what your character wants to do or would do in this circumstance, commit to those actions. And then when everybody has decided and committed, and then the GM can, decide for the monster based on the main monster's brain and their situation and what the monster should do, and then resolve everything based on what the people were doing in that moment. Resolve everything and then sort out where we are for the next moment. And again, in the next moment, each player, decides on their own what they want to do in that moment, and then we again resolve the conflict based on what each person is doing. So it's not a matter of, okay, the monster's swiping and now it's your turn. The monster you already know is swiping, so you decide based on that. No, in this case, you don't know what they're going to do. You're going to commit to an action, and then perhaps part of the commitment is you could back away if you're semi-committed or you're skilled at that sort of thing, but you have to decide whether or not you're going to commit to something or possibly stand there frozen in fear. That might happen too. So anyway, those are all ideas for our conflict. So we'll play with that some more in a bit.
As the curtain pulls up, you, Elf Wizard Apriline, and you, Rogue Gnome, Dark Branch, are sitting in a tavern. You have just come in and sat down. You have both had a long day, with the excitement of coming to the port at Wild Pebbles Beach. Then the confused bustle of docking. You had agreed to earn a few coins by helping unload the ship. Now you are both tired from the effort and the half-hour walk to the Wild Pebbles town. You each received 3 of the coins called jumpers, named after the horse stamped into the tail's side. This is on top of any money that you have come with. A jumper is commonly the pay for an hour's work, in most places that you have been, and 1 coin should be enough for a meal, but you don't know how it will be on Arapangia. People said the coins would be recognized. But you don't know. After you have sat down, you both look around into the dim light of the tavern. There is seating for about 20 people at tables and chairs, just big enough for 4 humans to sit comfortably. The table seems short and small for an elf, but you, Apriline, are used to this sort of thing. Nothing seems too strange, and there is a human woman delivering drinks across the room to a table with a mix of the sailors that you recognize as coming from the ship that brought you here. You can assume that the group will probably be leaving with the ship as well. Apriline, you catch the eye of the kobold, Dalig, who has treated you as a friend since you both rescued him. He had been tangled up in the rigging and was swinging around like a pendulum. So, Apriline, Dalig nods at you. What will you do? You could nod back. Or would you like to do something else?
Well, I think that I will nod back at Dalig. So, is he alone or is he sitting with the other sailors? As an elf and a wizard, while I will trade a friendly gesture for a friendly gesture, it would be out of character for me to walk to a table full of sailors, especially to talk to a kobold. No offense to the kobolds of the world, but as a wizard in a new land, I believe that I should present myself with the dignity that matches my status. Or, at least, the status that I hope to achieve.
Okay. Dalig is with the group that I mentioned earlier. There are 5 other sailors besides Dalig. They are spaced out between 2 of the tables.
Well, I can't pretend to speak for the kobolds of the world, but, really. April. Is this arrogance new, or would I be used to it by now? So, Turtle, how long has Apriline known Dark Branch?
Well, if you met on this trip, that would be, maybe 3 weeks. But, if you came on board together, maybe you have known each other for longer. Anyway, let's sort that out later. Let's just say that you have bunked together for at least 3 weeks, so you must know each other quite well by now. And, since you are here together, you must be getting along at least a little. So, Apriline, are you normally this arrogant? And do you treat Dark Branch the same?
Arrogant? Who? Me? And, little gnomes do not refer to me as April. I am Apriline. Turtle? What is the proper respectful honorific for a junior wizard?
Let's say that other elves would call you Junior Wizard, but maybe you think that you can get away with calling yourself Nova Wizard Apriline.
Just joking, Owl. But, I was thinking that Apriline will be very nervous about showing a good impression, and he wants people to know that he is a wizard and that wizards deserve respect. But, also, there is a little bit of racial snobbery going on. Elves can be like that. But, for some reason, I think I admire Dark Branch. Being a rogue does deserve some respect, and Apriline isn't going to diss his only friend.
Oh woo. How sweet. Well, let's say that Dark Branch will reflect that sentiment. As a gnome who grew up rough, Dark Branch will be more than eager to show all of the respect to Apriline that he can. When you are this far from home, you don't take friends for granted. Especially friends who can do magic. And an elf gets some respect anyway. That would be a valuable trait and worth staying close to. Also, sorry for calling you April. I acknowledge the mistake and will not make that mistake again. No, when I call you April next time, it will not be a mistake.
I hear you, Nova Wizard, April line.
Situations cannot be all decided in advance, so the GM must set up the odds on the fly. So that's something an idea that every game has, because the players want a certain amount of freedom for their characters to do what they want. So the players don't always want, a list of options to choose from. They should be able to decide, given this situation, what would be a normal thing to do, or what would be the player's best choice, depending on the player's goals. So, with the idea that the GM is going to have to come up with odds on the fly, well, practice will help, but so would a simple game mechanic. So there's good reasons to come up with a simple system. And so you could think of something as simple as a list of likelihoods, going from unlikely, very unlikely, unlikely, 50-50, likely to very likely. And you could do that with a D6. So let's say we're hoping for a big number. So if you roll a 6, right, a 6 would be unlikely. If you got a 5 or a 6, a 6 would be very unlikely to get. A 5 or a 6 would be unlikely. 4, 5, or 6 is 50-50. 3, 4, 5, or 6 would be likely. And 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 would be very likely to get. So, of course, we can use something as simple as a D6 and then add your skill value to that. I like the idea of using tokens to represent your skills, so that you might hand over a token to increase your odds by 1 level, to go from unlikely to 50-50, or from 50-50 to likely. I mean, assuming that it's likely to succeed is what you're trying for. Anyway, one token for each level that you can change, and then at some point get your tokens back when you've had a rest, or when you've drank another potion, or whatever you have to do. Tokens are fun to play with.
How are you feeling right now? Something might be about to happen, but in this moment, well, we need to be clear of your current state.
Okay, Turtle. For Dark Branch, it feels good to be off the street. For a gnome who grew up on the rough parts of a city, this drinking in a tavern is pretty posh. So woo. That would mean that I am pretty relaxed, but maybe a little bit excited. I will be looking around. Curious.
April line just wants to keep reminding everyone that he is a wizard and an elf, and he wants to be mysterious. But, the junior, Nova Wizard April line, doesn't want to complain, or really be the center of attention. But, yes, that is my focus. If anyone looks in our direction, they should be aware that this is a table that has a wizard.
Okay, that is how you are in this moment, but in the next moment, something is going to happen. So, as our game mechanic is a moment-by-moment thing, we just want to be clear about where you were. And then one of the sailors must have said something to the server woman, because, now, a local dwarf has just stood up and stepped toward a sailor. He is pointing his finger at the sailor and he has said, "Apologize, squib sucker." Now. So, April Line and Dark Branch? In the next moment, what do you do?
Well, I think that Dark Branch will just watch. Maybe sit up straight and watch. But, this has nothing to do with me.
Yes. I think that for sure, April Line will try to look as calm as possible. Yes, as my friend, Dark Branch would say, this has nothing to do with us. And of course, a wizard has more important things to think about.
Okay. Thank you. Well, now it is my turn to say what everyone else is doing in the tavern, in this moment. The sailor that the dwarf was pointing to will stand and be ready to defend himself. At the same time, all the other sailors near him will also stand. Except the kobold, Dalek, who is not shy about sliding off of his chair, and sort of hiding under the edge of the table. Then the bartender, the elf female, Yenleith, will call out to the dwarf, Gladrock. Sit down. And now that we know what everyone is doing, we need to decide what happens next. And there is a moment of nothing happening. And then the dwarf called Gladrock steps back toward his chair, but stops and says, "Okay, Yenny. I will sit down, just as soon as this guy apologizes to Ruth." Okay. In this moment, what does everyone do?
Dark Branch will smile a bit. Now he is thinking that this is the sort of stuff that happens in a bar. It isn't much different from what happens in the alleys behind the taverns.
The same for April Line. I will just sit and listen.
Yes. So everyone is now waiting for who will speak next, or do something else. The sailors are all still standing, but a little more relaxed. And the sailor that Gladrock was pointing to will say, "Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean nothin'. Just bar talk. No need to get uppity." Then as Gladrock starts to sit down, the sailor finishes by letting out a chuckle and calling him, "Lawn Ornament." So. This is clearly a challenge to a dwarf. Maybe because the sailor felt the support of his friends and the letdown of their side giving an apology. And the sailor now has his fists clenched. Again, a new moment, and how do you react?
Well, am I right in assuming that our table isn't too near this? If we are at least 2 dwarf heights away from the ruckus, then Dark Branch is just going to watch.
April Line will straighten his hat and then go back to watching his drink in deep wizard thoughts.
Well, now, Ruth will say, "Now, that's gone and done it," and she will go to move behind the counter with Yenleith. Yenleith has already started moving bottles and glasses out of harm's way in anticipation of a fight. At the same time, the sailors, who are used to this sort of thing when they are ashore, push back chairs to give their champion some room. And in this moment, the dwarf, Gladrock, is now bunched up in rage and ready to attack. And, in the next moment he does. With one roaring movement, Gladrock brings his chair around and smashes it over the sailor's head. The sailor goes down. Trigger the next moment. What do you do?
Well, this is getting out of hand. But, I still want to wait. This will probably be a point of indecision for Apraline the wizard. But, I must stay firm, until I am sure. So, I will stay focused on my drink. But, secretly, I am preparing a spell.
Okay. Then. Would you like to tell us what type of spell? We do know that it is a secret and not even your friend Darkbranch will know about it.
Well, I guess it will be a thunderclap sort of thing. Just in case I need to get people's attention.
Okay. Then. We will see if you end up using it. And what about you? Darkbranch. Do you have anything to prepare?
No. A bit of a scrap is nothing to a rogue gnome. But, I am impressed with my friend, the wizard. I mean his patience. I guess that I will follow his lead. But, I am ready to move quick if it comes to it.
Of course. The sailors who are still standing are going to go after the dwarf. No one will check on the sailor who went down with the chair. I don't know if I said it, but there are 8 other people in the bar besides yourselves and the sailors. And now 3 of the other locals move up to face off with the sailors. The others are holding back a bit, maybe hoping not to get involved, but ready in case they need to. And now, in the next moment, a chair fight breaks out and people and furniture are flying all over. So, Darkbranch and Apraline. What do you do? Let's start with you, Darkbranch. You don't know about the spell, but maybe you can guess.
Yes. That is a good point. So, I will step up to avoid a flying chair leg and well, mostly I will now just be defending myself and my wizard friend. I think I will suggest that it is time to find a different location with a little less adventure.
Well, it is time. A wizard will not put up with this sort of behavior in their presence. So, time to thunder. That's just the noise. I do have enough magic in my staff for another spell or 2, but magic costs money.
Okay. Then, in the next moment. I assume there is no doubt in your ability to make a thunderclap, so. We all hear a loud clap of thunder. And a stunned silence falls over the group. Do you two do anything next?
Well. At this time I will be standing. Angrily. And I will shout out. Desist. Then I stand and wait.
I am standing as straight and tall as a gnome rogue can. And I will wait to see what happens too.
Okay. Then. Let me do a roll. Okay. And so, for the sake of simple narration, we will jump ahead in time to about 15 minutes later. You are now, safely sitting under one of the docks. There is enough room to sit, but not enough to stand. This shore is sandy, and no sign of any wild pebbles. You are now in the sort of place that Darkbranch is more used to. After the thunderclap, everything was quiet for a short while, but nobody did anything to fix the tension, so the fight was bound to return. And so you two left. We will say that, being a rogue, you, Darkbranch, used a convenient distraction to acquire a bottle of wine for your trouble. Is that okay, Al? Darkbranch's brain is your domain.
Oh woo. That sounds very good. Thank you, Turtle.
And how about you, Apraline? Should we leave you two here for now? Is there any thoughts that our wizard might want to share?
Maybe, just a little, curse under his breath. but then a shy smile for his friend. And yes, some wine, for now.
Okay. Then. Let's call that a day. While you both marvel at how the sun is setting the same way that it has been setting for the last 4 hours.